Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today we got the information, the gem information for Path of Exile Heist League, the new gems, the alternate art quality, and the list is just... yeah, sheer endless. There's like 800 or so of these new changes, or at least like alternate quality, because every single skill and skill gem or support gems do have additional quality alternatives and stuff like that. Holy shit, so much. And then we have the gem information for the new skills, as well as the updated information, the buffed or reworked things like all the curses and stuff like that. First of all, small apologize here on that part. I just came home from the dentist, so I had like some root treatment on the right side, so everything here is numb from the narcosis and stuff, you know, the anesthesia or something like that. You kind of understand the idea. And it's like weird, when I drink like a sip of my coffee, it's like my lip, I cannot feel the right side of my chin at the moment. It's like everything is numb, so it's kind of hard to like talk. So we're gonna try to make it like this video a little bit shorter and a little bit less of emotions, because everything kind of hurts, because the stuff is getting reduced, like the what is it called, like narcosis, right? If everything is numb, and then after some time it gets down and you feel the pain. So the pain is coming, right? So beware. So hopefully I get this video through before we reach that stage. Okay, so let's start. Like, first of all, we're just gonna go over these new skills over here, not about all these reworked here, and we're not gonna go over the alternate quality. I will just point out one or two funny things that I found, and then you can pretty much check your own league starter with the gems that you planned, if there is like better versions for any kind of quality and stuff. And yeah, so first of all, Superior Splitting Steel. This is now the new skill next to the Shattering Steel and the Lancing Steel that got both reworked. This thing, I compared this one to the Shattering Steel. So this has way higher base damage, but less added attack physical damage. The modifier, like this will basically split towards other enemies, and yeah, is nothing too fancy over here. The main reason, the main things that I wanted to check, because I personally was too like interested in that part, right, was like Firestorm, Discharge, Blazing Salvo, Crackling Lens, for example, and surprisingly the Flame Wall. So yeah, Superior Splitting Steel, I say it looks kind of the same as Spectre Shield Throw, just without throwing your shield. Just throw your weapon or your spikes, and then you also get the Call of Steel, where you just can like collect all those spikes back, and then you have additional charges, so you can consume them up with Splitting Steel or the other steel skills. Then we have here Blazing Salvo. It's just a normal fire spell, sadly. So when I say sadly, I like when there is like a shit ton of description on gems, because it usually means that there is multiple ways to use that, and here we just have base damage, additional projectiles, and increased area of effect, and that's about it, you know. I would like to see some ignite things built in, like increased damage with hits and ailments, or the first or something, you know. But this is just like fire damage, projectiles, area of effect, that's it. Just like for spell crit or something, you can play those skills with ignite as well, right? You just have to get enough ignite chance if you're non-crit, or you're playing as an assassin, for example, to deliver crits and to deliver the ailments. But if the, like for example, Fireball has a built-in ignite modifier. That means when you ignite with Fireball, you could do massive amounts of more damage with your ignite. Sadly, nothing on the Blazing Salvo. Then we have the Crackling Lens. I compared this one to Arc. It pretty much has the same damage as Arc, so if Arc can clear all content, this one can pretty much too. But hey, 30% more damage with hits and ailments per intensity. So that actually has. So if I would say, hey, I want to play Crackling Lens with a Stormfire Ring, just boost my lightning damage with like Archmage, the similar way that I played my Ignite Trickster Arc like 2 leagues ago or something. I can definitely see myself playing a Crackling Lens Ignite build at some point, because hey, this is the part what I'm just saying, 30% more damage with hits and ailments. Ailments, ignite, and so on, you know, per intensity. So the smaller your beam gets, the more damage it does, the more damage your elements will do as well. But that's pretty sick. Absolutely no problem taking Crackling Lens as a league starter, in my opinion. You can take the like Enki's Arc, which I think it's like one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, forum build guide out there. It's so specific and detailed, and if you just swap out Arc and or like if you keep the build similar to Enki's Arc, which you should have absolutely no problem using that for Crackling Lens. I will post this manifesto here, the gem information, plus the alternate quality, plus Enki's Arc Witch guide in the description below if you want to take a look, because I probably will do the same tomorrow. Then we have the Superior Flame Wall. This is actually way more interesting than it was when I saw the first details in the balance manifesto and patch notes and whatnot. For me, it was like very clunky. You put down this wall and you shoot projectiles there, you get some extra damage, blah blah blah. But holy shit, that thing does some serious damage. So we have like over 2.3k flat damage per second just from the gem itself, you know, so without support gems. For example, Essence Drain has like base damage of like 1500 chaos damage per second. It's chaos, it's not really comparable to Flame, but so you just understand the values over here. And 1800 plus the base fire damage is kind of insane, and it adds fire damage. So yeah, at some point it will be clunky, but I think you could technically play a flame wall build. I mean, it sounds weird, but with like Herald of Ash or something, I don't know. It just, if you put this down, it does shit tons of damage, and we're talking about the secondary debuff. And the thing is, if you're shooting projectile through that thing, they will also debuff the enemy. So you can definitely play some, I don't know, like explosive arrow, flame wall, ignite, some things like that will be quite interesting to build around the flame wall. At some point in the league, it's not going to be my league starter. Then we have the Superior Frost Shield, which is basically a shield that you just have, and then if you get damage, it will take damage off the shield before your life or energy shield, based on if as far as I understand it, right, if the enemy is in this shield, it soaks up 20% of the damage, and if it's outside the shield, it soaks up 60% of the damage shield, not 100%. And you also gain spell crit strike chance per stage while in area, and there is like 4 stages, and every stage has like 910 life on this part. Quite interesting. But those new 4 defensive layers or mechanics, no, 3 actually. Wait, the Seagull? Yeah, the Seagull, the Void Sphere, and the Hex Blast, basically. So next on the list is the Hex Blast. That deals quite some damage, I would say, comparable to the other ones. Like, if we just compare that, Crackling Lens is like 250 to 700. This thing has like 500 to 800, which is a lot. Like, this shit does really a lot of damage. And then it's based still on the Doom of the, what's it called? When you curse an enemy, the Doom that is building up, and then just the more Doom, the more damage it will do. And we read yesterday in the patch notes that there will be a keystone, what was it, Doomsday or something, where you basically build up the maximum Doom in like a short amount of time, and combined with the Superior Hex Blast, that shit will do massive amounts of damage and can ignite, freeze, and shock. I think like based on the lowest resistance of what the enemy has and stuff like that, is going to be super interesting. And I would definitely just use this skill when you level up Essence Drain Contagion, just to see how it feels like. Or, you know, that there can be skills that are like insanely good in the scaling way, in the damage way, and everything like that. But if the skill feels clunky, no matter if it does a lot of damage, you will probably not play it, just because it's still the game fun that is most important. So yeah, I would rather play a build that is less good than other builds, like in damage, survivability, and so on. But if I just enjoy the playstyle and I just love to map with this build, then it's worth for me playing around this build, even though it's worse than other builds, right? So then we have the Seagull of Power, which is basically just a seagull that you lay on the floor, and I guess you just stand in there, and then you get like added lightning damage per stage, and you have 4 maximum stages, and you're gonna get less damage. So I can pretty much assume that this one, if we play it or with Crackling Lens, for example, that when Salvo starts, you're just gonna put down your Seagull, you stand in there, as long as you can like free cast, if you don't have to dodge like the quarter beam or something like that, you're gonna get less damage and you're gonna get more damage. I don't see any of these defensive mechanics built in mapping, for example, because I mean the Void Sphere looks kind of cool, same as probably the Seagull and stuff like that, or the Frost Shield. But if we're honest, if you're like mapping for currency, mapping for experience, you know, I mean, I'm just a person, I like speed builds, you know? I just want to browse through the maps with Headhunter, like 300% movement speed. I don't want to waste my time putting down a Frost Shield, so I can definitely see those things more in the bossing encounters, Saurus, Owl, and those kind of things where you can utilize the marks way better as well. Then we have the Void Sphere is doing physical damage, is getting converted, 40% of that into chaos damage, which could be potentially some poison things as well, but I think it's just like a defensive layer where you can use like curse and hit things, you know, or now what's it called, Hex Touch support or something like that, because it deals damage, but for being a spell, it's quite low on the damage side. So yeah, but I think you could, because poison, for example, does get scaled with the combined physical and chaos damage, right? And then it just slows the enemies and yeah, gets some pulses at certain periods of time. Then we have new support gems, something I have not seen before, which is the superior elemental pen support. The only thing when I noticed, like, you have like cold pen, lightning pen, and fire pen, the typical ones. I cannot remember having an Ellie pen support, but I do remember that the Shroud of the Lightless, I think, had that. Let me check. Shroud of the Lightless PoE. I think that one had a built-in elemental penetration. There we go. Because I know I read this at some point, but I was pretty sure, and the icon doesn't sound familiar to me as well, but it's just like same as the Cold Fire Lightning version. It's just for builds that utilize like all kinds of elemental base types, right? For example, Discharge if you want to, or Elemental Hit if you go if you don't block out the other two, you just use one, for example. Then we have the Impending Doom. Okay and not okay. So the okay mark is the more doom, the more damage you're gonna do, but the bad part is I was hoping, since it is an explosion, and as we know, most explosion types are a percentage of the killed enemy, right? And this scales up pretty heavily, because once you're getting into like full delirium maps, like tier 16, fully juiced, the monsters have shit tons of life, and those 3% has so much base damage, basically, right? And here we have base damage pretty low, actually, but that is not with the calculated doom on the target. And again, with Doomsday, that might be pretty sick on the damage type as well. And then we have the Pinpoint Support, which is pretty much you get 3 additional projectiles, therefore your skill deals less damage, just a typical GMP, lower, like lesser projectiles and stuff like that. But therefore, you build up intensity, right? And the more intensity you have, the less projectiles and the more damage they will do, right? So it's pretty much the same as Intensify support. If you run around and you have your seals, you just have some very insane area of effect. And once you stand still and just permanently cast something, you're gonna do massive amounts of single target damage. And I really, really enjoy those kind of things. The same with like, you know, I'm not a guy that is like likes to optimize the single target, for example. When I say like I play Blade Vortex, you know, usually if I play Blade Vortex, I get like Aerith effect or something, you know, just for the better clear, but I'm too lazy to swap in the conk effect instead of AoE for single target, you know. So that's why I really like this Intensify thing, so you can really have some AoE and some single target built in as well. So that's just super quality of life. Then we have like all the updated things that we have seen already. One thing I want to point out here is Firestorm. Sadly, same as the Blazing Salvo, no kind of ignite things and a maximum of 3 Firestorms at a time, which I kind of dislike, because I would really have liked to make like shit tons of meteors collapsing on the map at the given time, you know. But if it's limited to 3, I was like thinking about a Blazing Salvo, cast on crit, Firestorm, Assassin, something like that. But with this line over here, it just doesn't really make sense for me. And then we have this charge, which is insane, because not only the damage effectiveness got buffed from like 150 to 450, the damage is like 2.5 times higher or almost tripled, which is insane, but on a 2 seconds cooldown. It means you play like a one-shot build, but they will release like a threshold jewel or something where you can lower the cooldown, but therefore I assume we're going to lower the damage as well, obviously. But we need to see how that threshold jewel looks like and how it works, and if it's still worth, because just looking at this charge right now, even if we just ignore the fact of the cooldown, if we just take a look at the damage amplifiers here, it's insane. It's actually absolutely busted, and I will definitely get my hands on a discharge build this league, but not for my league starter. So and then for the alternate quality, as I said, the list is in a link in the links below, and there is basically everything. So basically, when you say like, hey, I want to play Crackling Lens, you know, Crackling Lens, there you go. So you see, oh, we have chance to shock enemies as quality. Lightning damage converted to chaos damage. That's interesting. Lose intensity slower while moving, or cast speed. So you basically have to really check your skill setup now for your planned league starter, and actually check what would be the best quality. On start, it will not matter, to be honest, because where do you get those alternate qualities? I think in Heist only. So it will take time until all the support gems with the alternate qualities that you're looking for is actually out there. So Creeping Frost additional projectile it's insane. But one thing I want to point out is Earthquake, which is kind of fancy because alternate quality 3, increase and reductions to spell damage also apply to attack damage from this skill. Does that mean we're gonna have a low life Earthquake build? But yeah, you can make up your decision yourself, and yeah, have fun with checking out the list, making your league start as good as possible. And yeah, guys, I would say tomorrow I'll post when I finally decided, because, I mean, through the patch notes, I don't really mind certain things being nerfed. I would still play rather things on League Start, but I was deciding between Blazing Salvo Cast and Crit Firestorm variation, then a Crackling Lens build, or the Poison Blade Vortex that I showed you guys in the end of the last league. But I think the Fire thing fall off now because I like my dot builds on League Start, so we're gonna see. It's probably going to be Crackling Lens, almost certainly sure, but I'm going to give you more information about that tomorrow. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.